everybody, Throndo here. Today I am going to be making a beginner's tutorial on the Hunter Call of the Wild. This is for anyone who's just getting started with the game. Maybe you're just wanting some tips and tricks for getting started. Maybe you've already started and you're just overwhelmed by the amount of information. In either case, I am here to try to provide to you as much help as possible. So to set the record straight and to just kind of make sure you're aware of what I'll be covering here, there are obviously a lot of things that I could go over. There's many different weapons for different pieces of equipment, but overall, I won't be doing weapon reviews or explaining every weapon and their pros and cons in this video. This video is mainly to teach you the basics, the things that are going to be applicable to virtually all hunting scenarios. So, without further ado, let's begin. So, when you first start the game, you'll most likely be starting in Leighton Lakes, although the base game does include the Hurstfield in reserve as well. If you start in Leighton Lakes, which I believe it loads up automatically, you'll be starting right down in this area here. So, as you can see, if you look in the bottom right, you can see a little speaker. That speaker is indicative of how much noise you're making. This will depend on a variety of things. So, if I stand still, obviously, no noise. If I crouch and then move, less noise than if I'm standing and moving. You can see that difference there. If I sprint, you can see one of those bars has turned red. So a red bar means you are making much too noise. You really don't want to be making a ton of noise while you're hunting. So if I walk through this tree here, this brush, you can see that again goes up. It's too loud. So if you're trying to stealthily creep up on something, your best bet is to crouch. And yes, you can move forward and just push your joystick all the way forward, but if you actually pull back a little bit, you can see that you can get that bar to drop. And if you go really slow, and if you stop, you'll stop making noise. Now, if you go all the way down where you're laying prone on the ground, even if you move forward as fast as possible, you're only going to make one bar of noise. But if you pull back just ever so slightly, you won't make any noise. This is perfect for sneaking up, closing in the distance on the last few meters that you need to reach your target, popping up, aiming, lining up your shot, and then firing. Another thing you'll notice is this little eye-looking icon, this circle to the left of the speaker. That is indicative of your general visibility. So if I'm standing still, you can see that, yeah, I'm visible, but I'm not too obvious. If I start moving, that is maximum visibility. You generally don't want this to be the case. So even though you could stand and try walking to hunt, you'll be making more noise and being more visible. Ideally, you're crouched. So this means that that little bar there with the line means that you're almost invisible. If you lay down completely, that line means that you are completely invisible. Nothing will really be seeing you. Now, if you move, your visibility and noise open up again. And even if you go to where you're making no noise, you're still visible. So this doesn't mean that you can just get right in front of something. You still have to play this game as if you were actually hunting. The last thing that you'll see underneath that, or to the left, sorry, of the circle is that heart. Your heartbeat is a very important factor in this game. Sometimes you'll be tempted to be running up on your prey. Maybe you're trying to just close distance quickly before it has a chance to run away. Or maybe you were just running already across the countryside, maybe to some objective or the other, which I will explain later. Now, as you can see, the more that heart gets pumping, or the longer you run, the more that heart pumps. Now, when your heart rate gets really high like that, you'll hear your character begin exhaling much more vigorously, and when it starts beating red like that, that means that when you aim next, your aim will be thrown off. And if you let your heartbeat settle, you'll notice that my aim definitely stabilizes once I've stopped. Now, I have been playing this game for quite a while, so I do have several perks working that are helping me in the background. Now, with regard to the heartbeat, I have a perk that makes it where it doesn't affect my aiming as much, and it's harder to get it worked up. When you start running even a relatively short distance, comparative to the map size, will get your heart rate through the roof, and when you aim, your aim won't be going just these little circles or maybe like this. You will be wildly swinging your gun, and odds are you won't be able to hit anything. So the best approach generally is to just play this game as realistically as possible and to just move slowly and be smart about it. Another thing is that when you're walking while aiming, your aim will be thrown off. I believe there are perks that you can get later in the game that help, but for right now, generally you're not aiming while running. So to the left of the heart icon, you'll see this compass. Now, you can have it set up one of two ways, where I believe your compass spins and your arrow stays pointed up, or your arrow spins and the compass stays aligned northward. I personally prefer the latter of the two, but this will give you your general sense of direction. So if you know, looking at the map here, my objective is north, you know that you need to be moving north. Now this green cone that you see is indicative of the wind, direction of the wind. So if the wind is blowing, it will be carrying your scent. And some animals you can still get pretty close to, but there are some where you need your scent to be blowing completely away, or else they will run. So these are your general mechanics that you're going to be starting the game with. Now, I am using the starting weapon and the starting scope just to be as close to what you would be starting with as possible. So the last thing we'll do before we get started hunting something is I will explain the quads. The quads are very useful for getting around the map extremely quickly. There is a problem though. When you hop on one of these bad boys, when you start it up, notice how that loud noise bar is red? In a 300-meter radius, everything will hear you and run. Now the problem with 300 meters is that that is basically the range of every gun in the game. So you can't be driving your quad and expecting to be hopping off, quickly pulling up a scope and shooting something. Every now and then you'll get very lucky if an animal's running and let's say it got stuck running against this signpost, for example, you might get lucky like that. But overall, you want to play this game realistically. That is the key to success in this game. If you play it as realistically as possible, you will do well in this game. So from here on out, we won't be using the quad, and we'll just be kind of wandering around for a little bit until we find some tracks or hear some noise. So if you look up there, that is a watchtower. So there are two main things that you will be searching for as you play through your map. Watchtowers, such as the one illustrated on the map, these, lookout points, reveal nearby points of interest. So perhaps a landmark that gets you a bit of XP, an outpost, which is where you will be able to fast travel to and from. Well, take that back. You can fast travel to an outpost pretty much any time you want. The outposts are useful for switching weapons, switching gear, buying more ammo, which is definitely the biggest drain on your funds in this game. So with that being said, we'll move forward and I'll explain a little bit more about the game and some of the controls now. So obviously, like most first-person games, you use your left stick to move, your right stick to look. In this game, L2 aims and R2 fires, though I will not be demonstrating the firing mechanism because I do actually wish to find something. When you're aiming, with your starting scope. Your scope ranges from 1 times magnification to 4. To zoom in, press the up arrow on the D-pad, and you can zoom in 4 clicks. Now there are scopes that are more powerful. For example, oops, I accidentally pulled out my cell phone. I will admit, this is something that happens to me quite often. There we go. So, if you're looking to switch pieces of equipment, let's say like me, you're carrying more than one gun around, hold the up arrow, and this will bring up a wheel. If you use the R stick while still holding the up arrow, you can choose your different pieces of equipment. So if we go over to our Ranger 243, which is what we're using, and we hit R1, we can switch what sights we're using. In fact, if you're feeling particularly adventurous, you can even remove your sight. Though I wouldn't really recommend this. There's not hardly ever a reason to do this unless you just want to use it for the aesthetic. Now this is the best scope that you can get. This is the late game material. You will be a long way coming to get this. So this is the lowest zoom. This is the highest zoom. That is a bird stuck in a hill. That bird is not killable. It's not meant to be prey. Now, if I show you another weapon, if I hit L1, I can change what type of ammo I use for this gun. R1 will still change the scope, but L1 will change the ammo. So in general, polymer tip will have greater penetration, while soft tip or soft point, whatever it's called, will have greater expansion. So penetration and expansion are going to be the two main mechanics at play when you do shoot something. So your Ranger will start, and you will have the 22 or the 243 soft point bullets. The soft point is relatively balanced, although if you switch to the 243, I believe polymer tip or whatever the variant is, you'll get more penetration out of it. Penetration will mean that you can burrow your shots further into whatever you're shooting, but expansion will cause more blood loss and cause your prey to die more quickly. You want to be lining up your shots well. You want to be hitting vital organs. Perfect. Poop. Very old. Now, when I tag this, you can see in the top right, moose droppings, very old. There are, so in, I want that back on there. So, very old, fresh, very fresh, and just now are the variations of poop that you'll find. I guess you could say scat. So if you're following something, let's say you found that trail and you wanted to follow it for a while, you would know when you're getting closer and closer or catching up to the animal based on how its scat is ranking in terms of the time since it was dropped. So to explain this, that over there, that marker. Oh, one more thing. The touchpad in the center of your controller opens your map. This is a need zone. Need zones are very important. So if you look in the bottom right there, it tells you that moose can be found there from the hours of 8 to 12, and coyotes can be found there from the hours of 7 to 10. Now that's a sleeping zone, and this is looks like a feeding zone. Let's make our way up to this first little question mark here. I don't know how I haven't discovered it yet. So overall, this game isn't terribly difficult. In fact, the longer you play, the easier it gets, and it's not necessarily relating to skill. You get better equipment, there is definitely a sense of a learning curve and a sense of progression in this game. Um, Let me think if there's any other basics I should cover. Ah, yes. So if you pause with the options button, this will let you edit your inventory. Now this was a very, very long sought after trick that took me a little while of Google searching to find. But if you go to an outpost and let's say you buy a new gun and you want to use this gun, well, in the outpost, which I will be taking us to later, I will show you there, you have to add the gun to your inventory, which makes sense. Most people would see that there's a separate inventory spot and could check it and see. Now the problem is, to use the gun, you must pause, select the gun from your weapon wheel, and place it where you want it in your wheel. And you must place the ammo for it on the gun, as well as any sights you wish to use. That took a long time to figure out, and admittedly did make the beginning of the game frustrating when I was finally able to buy a pair of binoculars and couldn't use them. So this is a landmark, and landmarks grant you a little bit of XP when you discover them, I believe. Okay, apparently not. But in either case, XP is extremely important in this game. If I go to my hunter and profile card, you can see that I am level 36. There's 60 levels in the game, and many weapons and pieces of equipment are level locked. You need to reach a certain level to use a certain piece of equipment. In fact, you actually have different tracking measures. So you have a rifle score, which increases the more you use rifles. You need to increase your rifle score to unlock new, improved scopes. That is a call, a black-tailed deer meeting call. So to show you what I was talking about a little bit ago about the shop, these are your shops. They're always these red crates. Certain levels outside of the base game will have them be like wooden gun cabinets, but as you can see, I'm not exactly made of money right now. So storage is where you'll want to go if you're looking to equip a gun or a piece of equipment. So the left side is what you have available, and the right side is what you're already carrying in your inventory. If you highlight the weapons section and click it, you can just collapse it and go down to ammo. And then sights, lures, consumables, binoculars, and portable structures. I guess as it turns out, I don't have my consumable first aid kit equipped. Now outposts are nice because you can fast travel around the map and get around the map pretty quickly that way. They're also nice because let's say, for example, this need zone, its time is 17 to 19. If I wanted to, I could sleep and make it to 17 and fast forward time. Now this does cost money, $250, which sounds like a lot, but once you get more than a few kills in and you have like a few thousand on you at all times, it's not really that much, but the more you use it, the more it'll cost, and there's like a timer or cooldown where it'll slowly go down. This purple circle here is indicative of a kill. When you kill something, this purple circle is hunting pressure. Animals who are, let's say, passing through or heading to need zones will generally avoid them if there's a lot of hunting pressure. So this actually isn't a whole lot. As you can see, this one up here, there's two that overlap, so this area is a lot brighter than right where I'm at now. Now to explain something about your weapon, if we look at the Ranger 243, you can see that it says that its recommended classes, which is at the very bottom of its info right there, is from 2 to 6. This means that animals that are of a size class from 2 to 6 can be killed without penalty. Now, you may be wondering, what do I mean by penalty? Well, when you kill an animal, there are 4 different metrics they use to determine how much money you earn from the kill. Now, obviously, better animals do result in more money. That much is obvious. If you get a really beautiful rack on a deer versus a doe, then you're going to get more money for having killed that deer, or that buck, I should say. But the other 4 metrics that affect the baseline is the quickness of the kill, whether or not you hit a vital organ, whether or not you used the proper equipment type, gun type, which is where that classes comes into play, and oh yes, the last one, whether or not you damaged the trophy organ. So the trophy organ will vary animal to animal, but like for example, if you shoot a deer, let's say you shoot it once in the lungs, and then while it's running you shoot it in the head. The head is the trophy piece. If you damage that, you're effectively damaging the value of your kill. And so not only do you earn less money from it, but if you decide, I really want to taxidermy that, you'll have to pay a pretty hefty fine to restore the animal and to taxidermy it. So that deer has hurt us. But I cannot see him, sadly. It sounds pretty vicious. Now, animals will generally call like that 3 times, and then they will leave. However, as we can see, that particular one has foolishly chosen to stay behind, and we will now line up our shot. Now, when deers run with, or when a buck or a doe runs with their head down, that means you've hit them. If you see them running and their head's up and they seem unaffected, that means that they are still, essentially you missed your shot. Now, if you look here, I spotted the animal, and this is the marker for where the animal was last seen. But I shot it over here. So what we'll do is we'll take our binoculars and we'll be ready to keep spotting this thing. Now, our map is always a great indicator to tell if whether or not we killed an animal. So we shot the deer at its need zone, from 12 to 16. If we see a purple circle outline, that means the deer has died. Now we're going to walk over here and start tracking this thing. But I suspect that that was perhaps not the best of shots, which will actually work in our favor, since I will then be able to show you how tracking animals works. So let's run over. We've already shot our gun, so there's no sense in trying to be stealthy here. Yes. So by default, things that you're not tracking will be white, and things that you are tracking will be blue. When you spot and shoot an animal, it remains tracked for you. So this is the deer, very fresh. Yes, we know. This is where our deer is, and let's see if we can find... yes, this is its blood trail. So I didn't hit any organs, and it is still alive, unfortunately. change of plans. Unfortunately, that deer may forever be lost in the wilderness. One day it may come back with a vengeance. That is not what you're supposed to do, by the way. But you would honestly have been better off waiting for it back at its need zone. You could have posted up and waited back here. I was hoping I could catch it. As you can see, it will lead you a long ways away. But its need zone is from 12 to 16. So if you shoot and the animal runs away, the animal, as long as you're early enough in that time zone, the need zone, which we still were, it will eventually come back. And you can get your second shot then. You just have to be patient. I was not patient, and this is the price I've paid. I'm settling for a little rabbit now, instead of a deer. Sadly. But, okay, so there's a lot to break down here. This is a class 1 animal. You can see its gender, weight, fur type, tracking distance, difficulty, trophy type, and trophy organs on the left-hand side. So, trophy organs will tell you if there are trophy organs. If you hit R2 on your controller, you can see where you shot it. You can see the bullet path. It'll tell you in this orange section that's highlighted on the right that you hit flesh, left lung, right lung. Generally, a heart shot will instantly kill an animal, or nearly instantly, and left lung, right lung is probably the easiest shot to get on most animals. It'll tell you what weapon, what ammo, the distance, and the weapon score that you got for killing the animal. If you hit the left arrow, it'll tell you what the ratings are for rabbits and what you would have needed to get a different rank. So we got a silver rank, which isn't bad for a female rabbit. Generally, the males are the only way to reach the best ones. The higher the rank, the more it's worth. If you look at the harvest check, and you go down, once you hit the left arrow, it'll tell you proper ammo was used for the animal, it was shot 2 times or less, it has intact trophy organs, and you hit 1 vital organ at least. Now, you could hit triangle and taxidermy it, but for $1,000, which I don't really have, I don't really need to. But let's say that you wanted it, you just didn't have the money. You could hit square, and you could save the harvest. Now, if you have a bunch of saved harvests, you have to go through and erase one. And it will also save the last unsaved, if you look above, if you do decide to taxidermy it later. So if we hit X to accept, we receive $366. Now, given the ammo for this gun can be bought, I believe, 5 rounds apiece for far less than that, that's not too bad. So, some tips. Obviously, I did not handle the deer as well as I could have. I'm not used to using this gun with such a short-range scope. It's been a long time. Ideally, let's say that was the deer, and I'm aiming at it at the hill. My scent was pointing about where it was, I believe. I could have maneuvered slowly to try to get a more accurate shot. Maybe open up that left flank a bit, and instead of shooting at it from the butt, I could have maybe hit its lungs. Gone for a more vital area. But this is the basics of the game. This is what you'll be doing. There will be times like this where you will miss and you will spend forever tracking something and just never find it. And there will be times that you will be doing something, tracking an animal you shot, finding an outpost, going to a watchtower, and you'll just see an animal and go, oh, there it is, and you'll shoot it. So there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, as long as you don't waste too much ammo to the point where it's not worth the ammo cost, then as long as you're making money, you're doing good. The last thing I'll tell you is that the soft point bullets for the Ranger 243 are free. You can basically 3D print these things hot off the press in the store. So this is definitely one of the better guns for starting out, because there's no cost sunk into it to use this weapon or to fire it, you can, and don't tell anyone I said this, but it doesn't really matter with this gun if you spend 53 bullets downing one deer. Now, you're not going to get hardly any money for it, but you invested nothing into it, so it's still a profit. Now, is it a massive waste of your time? Yes. So you still want to be accurate and doing good and doing what you're supposed to in this game. So that is all for the tutorial. That is the basics of what you'll be doing. If there's anything I missed or any questions you have, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. I will be posting more videos of the Hunter Call of the Wild. I feel like exploring Layton and Hirschfield in a little bit more. And then I can do some gun reviews. And there's a lot you can do in this game. I've bought all the DLCs. I have all the extra goodies. I could do reviews on that. If anyone's wondering, well, is it worth it to buy this? I can show off, here's this map, here's this one, the pros and the cons of each. But for now, that's the beginning tutorial. And you should be all set and ready to go have at it and teach some deer who's boss. So this is Ronald here.